This is the Center for Community Engagement, Environmental Justice and Health at the University of Maryland and the School of Public Health. This is the Match Mini Grant Information Session. Support for this program was provided by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Our SIEGE Match team includes the individuals that you see on the screen. Dr. Shakobi Wilson is Professor and Director of SIEGE. I'm the Operations Manager. We also have on the call Dr. Paul Cavanaugh, the Grant Specialist, and this is the rest of our team. We're being helped tonight by a summer scholar, Tamisha Harris, and our Graduate Research Assistant from the University of North Carolina, Justin Quimbo. So what is MATCH? MATCH is the Mid-Atlantic Climate Action Hub. It is not a federal grant program. It's actually not affiliated with any government entity, but it is a funded program from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They support us, and it's a more simplified way to get funding to communities impacted by environmental justice. The funds are meant to aid smaller, less developed environmental justice organizations build capacity so that they are viable and effective. So what is environmental justice? As defined by EPA, environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policy. This goal will be achieved when everyone enjoys the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards and equal access to the decision-making process to have a health environment in which to live, learn, and work. I've already told you who SIEGE is. Robert Wood Johnson Foundation is a private philanthropic organization dedicated to finding innovative ways to improve the health of all Americans. We are working on this project with several Hub Steering Committee partners. They include El Centro de Apoyo a Familia in Riverdale, Maryland, Sentinels of the Eastern Shore in Eastern Shore, Maryland, Sussex Educational and Health Network in Selbyville, Delaware, which is the Eastern Shore of Delaware, United Parents Against Lead in Richmond and Petersburg, Virginia, Overbrook Environmental Education Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, South Baltimore Community Land Trust in Baltimore, Maryland, Empower DC, which covers all the wards of the District of Columbia, and the South Ward Environmental Alliance in Newark, New Jersey. The objectives of MATCH are as follows. Objective 1, to engage, identify, and prioritize communities who will receive funding, assistance, and capacity building. Objective 2, develop and implement a financial and technical assistance program for the selected communities. Objective 3, to develop, implement, and leverage educational and training programming to empower impacted residents to address climate injustices. Objective 4, to engage policymakers and agencies to implement strategies and policies that will help address climate injustices. The definition of terms is very important because there seems to have been some lack of clarity in our outreach. So we wanted to make sure that we let everyone know these are the terms as we define them. An environmental justice organization is defined as an organization to address environmental justice comprised of members of the community affected by the environmental injustice or environmental injustices. Environmental justice can also be defined as a social movement to address environmental injustice, which is the exposure of poor and marginalized communities to harm from hazardous waste, resource extraction, and other land uses from which they do not receive benefits. A community-based organization. This definition of a CBO was created during the 2002 and 2003 planning meetings and adopted by the NCBON members at the NCBON organizational meeting at the APHA, American Public Health Association, annual meeting in Washington, D.C. in 2004. A community-based organization is one that is driven by community residents in all aspects of its existence. By that, we mean The majority of the governing body and staff consists of local residents. The main operating offices are in the community. Priority issue areas are identified and defined by residents. Solutions to address priority issues are developed with residents, and program design, implementation, and evaluation components. Oops, sorry. I lost it. Oh, program design, implementation, and evaluation components have residents intimately involved in leadership positions. A frontline community is defined as groups of people that have disproportionately carried the burden of harm from exploiting natural resources, economic disinvestment, underinvestment, and/or social and political disenfranchisement. These communities are also the same under-resourced communities that bear the disproportionate impacts of disaster. Frontline communities are those that experience the most immediate and worst impacts of climate change and are most often communities of color, Indigenous, and low income. Fenceline community. A fenceline community lives immediately adjacent to highly polluting facilities. Think fossil fuel infrastructure, industrial parks, or large manufacturing facilities, and is directly affected by the traffic, noise, operations, and most concerningly, chemical and fossil fuel emissions of the operation. This is from a paper by EcoTrust called Centering Frontline Communities. According to a report from the NAACP and the Clean Air Task Force, most fenceline communities in the United States are low-income individuals and communities of color who experience systemic oppression such as environmental racism. A fiscal sponsor. A fiscal sponsorship generally entails a nonprofit organization agreeing to provide administrative services and oversight to and assume some or all of the legal and financial responsibility for the activities of groups or individuals engaged in work that relates to the fiscal sponsor's mission from the National Network of Fiscal Sponsors. We provide these definitions because some of the early applicants for the Match Mini grants are not applicable organizations. So we wanted to be clear about what organizations would be eligible. And thus, this June information session. In order to be eligible for the grant, organizations must demonstrate familiarity with energy, environment, and climate justice issues within the Mid-Atlantic region, knowledge of local community concerns on environmental and climate justice issues, specifically communities of color, tribal nations, and low-wealth populations. Capacity to help their local community and/or communities in the Mid-Atlantic region that face numerous social, health, and economic challenges. Experience collaborating with community-based organizations that work in frontline and fenceline communities, advocacy groups, nonprofit organizations, green groups, and policymakers to address environmental and climate injustices. Examples of ineligible organizations include organizations that are situated outside of the Mid-Atlantic region states comprised of Delaware, District of Columbia, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, private businesses and corporations, and for-profit organizations. Application requirements. You may apply for Match Mini grants on the SIEGE website, www.ceejh.center, via the Google form. The list of questions is also provided as a PDF so that you might see the questions in advance to prepare your answers. If this is too difficult for your organization, you can request a Word document from SIEGE at siegecenter@gmail.com by Monday, June 26th. The application itself. The application was designed to be more simplified than most of the federal applications. There is a short list of questions asking for the organization or neighborhood's email address, the name, if it exists, the name of the organization, the email of the organization. Sorry? Was there a question? Okay. The executive director and president or lead staff person, a telephone number, mailing address, physical address, website, and social media pages if relevant. You're also asked to please provide the name, position, email, and telephone number of 2 individuals in your organization whom SIEGE can contact if necessary, preferably the executive director or president of the group and the lead staff person who is completing the application. In 250 words or less, you're asked to please briefly describe your group or organization's purpose, history, and accomplishments. When was your group or organization formed? And has your organization been operating continuously since it was formed? If your group organization is new, and we will accept applications from new organizations, is this the first project it is undertaking for which you are seeking external grant funds? Please share your group or organization's most recent annual budget. Does your group or organization have 501c3 status? Note your organization is not required to have this status to receive this. If your 501c3 application is pending, please state that as well. And this is where we reference that you may need a fiduciary if awarded the grant, but that's not important in the application right now. If your group organization has a presence on the web, please list the URLs, the web addresses. Please list 2 references that your group or organization has worked with closely in the past. The asterisks all indicate that this is required information. Does your organization have a stated mission and or bylaws which has been agreed upon by your board of directors, a community advisory board, or leadership team? If so, what is it? Describe the goals and objectives of your project. What need or needs in your community will this project address? How will this money help improve health, reduce or eliminate inequities in your community? For example, describe the ways your project will improve the life of the community and its residents, and if the problem hazard you are addressing is mitigated or eliminated altogether. How will you measure the success of this project? Will you be using surveys, interviews, focus groups, quantitative data, or a combination of different methods? Please provide a timeline that includes descriptions of the actions you will carry out, execute during each month of the project, and the deliverables products that you will create. Provide a budget and a budget justification for your project. Include only expenses directly related to your project. The budget may include salaries and wages of personnel, fringe benefits, materials and supplies, food, transportation costs, childcare costs, communication costs, print and media costs, and any other expense that will be directly related to carry out your project. Items such as entertainment expenses, lobbying expenses, and construction should not be included in the budget. You may email this budget to siegecenter@gmail.com if this is an external document. Please let us know whether this match grant is the only external funding you will have available for this project. If not, what other organizations do you expect funding from? So in summary, application submission instructions include: go to the match section of the SIEGE website, www.ceejh.center. Look at the list of questions. You will be able to click for a PDF copy. To actually apply, click here to apply now button and complete the Google form online. You will then send the external budget to siegecenter@gmail.com and put match mini grant budget in the header. Our review process and timeline includes accepting applications until June 30th, reviewing applications over July and August, and announcing application recipients or mini grant recipients in the month of September. For your information, SIEGE will have its annual symposium on environmental justice and health, both virtually and at the University of Maryland during the week of September 11th through 16th. Our goal is to announce the grant recipients during that time. Then there will be a process which Dr. Paul Cavanaugh oversees to make sure that our organizations are awarded funds before the end of the year. I know this is a lot of information, but we're sharing as much as we can with you because we also want to be helpful to the organizations that are applying. We also have a series of GIS workshops, mainly for our community hub partners, but we are making information available to you. The first one is next week, on June 29th. It is for the Centers for Disease Control Environmental Justice Index, which helps define communities' environmental health, and environmental justice issues. That workshop will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. You may email the SIEGE Center to get more information. And the rest of the workshops are set up every 2 weeks, basically. So now is the time for us to accept questions from the participants. Hopefully this PowerPoint was explanatory and we can now hopefully address your questions or follow up with our leadership to get answers for you. And I'll stop the share now. I'm going to ask Quentin to help me manage any questions in the chat. I'm already seeing hands. Josie Pines. Hi.
Hi. I was just looking through the link to the Google form submission and realized that I think that we applied or did the Google form submission with the expectation of May 19th. Is this separate from that? Or
this is not. We wanted to expand the offering to as many people as possible. This is the same submission. Okay. There will be a second one. We don't know the time frame for it, but this is our first attempt to do the mini grant process. And this is the same set. We will be looking at the same set of applications. We have not looked at any of the applications that were submitted in May, but we do have them.
So is there a way for me to double check that the one that I submitted before May 19th is there and that we don't have to resubmit?
Misha, what is the name of the organization?
Progressive Maryland.
Is Progressive Maryland an environmental justice organization?
Progressive Maryland Education Fund. We've got one of our issue campaigns is environmental justice.
Okay, are you composed of people from an environmental justice community? I'm sorry.
Yes, so we've got the environmental justice task force that's directly impacted community members.
My assistant is checking the list right now. Who submitted the application?
I did, Josie Pines.
Josiepines. Do you see him? Mm-hmm. Yes, we have your application.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Maggie Stokes.
Hi, yes, thank you. Thanks for hosting this. A couple questions. So I also submitted back when the deadline was the end of May. Are we able to resubmit with the new deadline, or because I'm just concerned that the timeline might be a little off with the extended deadline?
I don't understand about the timeline. We haven't looked at any of the applications. Are you wanting to withdraw the application you submitted and resubmit?
Is that a possibility? Or, okay.
We haven't looked at them at all.
Okay. So if I wanted to do that, should I email you or just go ahead and resubmit?
You should email the SIEGE Center at Gmail website, the same website for everything, and we will pull that application.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And then, so do you expect the projects to then take place in 2024 if the funds are being awarded in December? Is that kind of the project timeline? And, could the funds be used retroactively?
We are not encouraging you to use the funds retroactively. The funds should be for projects because you'll have to do a reporting from that point forward. You may get the funds earlier than December 31st, but we needed to allow for our internal processes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Stephanie Willett.
Yes, I have a question regarding eligibility. So I'm supporting a group that is regional in that Virginia is part of the consortium, but there's also some other states in the southeast. Would this consortium group be eligible?
Yes, but the work needs to happen in the Mid-Atlantic.
The work would have to happen in Virginia. So again, if we had Virginia and Florida and North Carolina, South Carolina.
Region 4 EPA.
Okay.
We're the Mid-Atlantic.
Okay, so that would be another pot of money. Do
Well,
they have something
we
comparable?
don't cover the Southeast at all.
I understand. Does the Southeast have something comparable?
I think they do. I think the Deep South Center for Environmental Justice has something comparable.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ruby. Hi, Ruby Stimmel.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry, I was a little late and then it took like forever for me to be allowed in the meeting. And so I missed a lot of the presentation, and sorry if I'm gonna ask a question that you already answered, but
Okay.
so we submitted in the first, I heard someone asking this question. I just want to clarify this. So if we submitted, we don't have to resubmit, was the answer?
No. You don't have to, but if you choose to, email us and let us know that we should discard of your first application.
Okay.
But, can you verify Eco Latinos? Ruby, are you the applicant?
Yeah, yes, well, through my grant writer, yeah, Ruby Stemley or Sandy Jimenez.
Have it? We have it.
Okay, so
We just have a list. We have not looked at the content at all. We have a list of everyone that.
yeah, so there is an opportunity then for people to reapply for a larger amount of money?
No, not at all. It's only $20,000. There will be 10 applicants and we will do it again next year. If not this fall. I shouldn't say next year because we may try to do it again this fall, but I'm not the person that makes that decision. There will be a second round, but for this round, 10 grants, $20,000 each. It's sort of similar to the old, well, it's not old, the EPA small EJ grants program, 20,000, except less restrictions. So 10 grants, $20,000.
10 grants for $20,000. Now, then the other question would be, if we keep the application that we have, can we still go for the other mini grants for the 10,000, whatever the new ones that you just described? Or if you are in this, if you apply in the first round, you either reapply for the total or
You either reapply. I mean, if you don't get selected in the first round, you're eligible to reapply.
yeah, but for this pocket of money, is it advisable for us to apply separately or?
I don't understand. You've already applied.
Yes,
It's the same grant program. We just extended the deadline.
oh,
It's
okay,
the same program as the May 19th deadline. We just extended it to June 30th.
okay, so we can leave it alone. It's the same amount of money, everything is exactly the same conditions. Oh, okay, that's what was confusing for us. Thank you so much.
Hi, Chris Farley.
Hi, I work for an environmental education nonprofit called Alice Ferguson Foundation in Accokeek, and we serve low-income communities throughout DC, Prince George's County, Charles County, and we're providing environmental education, but we are in the grant, we're saying that we're going to develop a climate justice module for our curriculum, and we already educate a lot of lower income students who don't have access to environmental education. Is this something that is likely to be funded through this grant?
So I cannot say what is likely to be funded, and for purposes of disclosure, I have worked with Alice Ferguson in the past.
Okay.
I can't say what's likely to we have different groups of reviewers. All I can say is that buy and make the case for the community that you're helping. And there is a question that asks, what will be the impact of your work? So I think you should be addressing.
But we're eligible is what I really meant. Not necessarily likely, but like eligible for this grant if we're gonna institute climate justice in our education.
If you can show that you're representing and composed of diverse communities.
Okay.
I don't know what your current situation is with your board, and you're an active.
Yeah,
So you would need to show how you impact, how you are of the community. And I'm not going to be on your reviewer team, so let me make that clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, thank you.
Because the idea behind these grants and it's really about people who live in the communities that are most impacted. So, in the DC area, we have many. I don't want to start naming them. And it is important that the organization be composed of people from the community as well. So if you're not, if you determine that you're not of the community, then perhaps you want to partner with a community-based organization or an EJ community group and let them be the applicant and you sub to them.
Okay. But I believe a lot of our part-time educators are from like the local community that we work in. We don't exclusively serve that community that they're from, but we serve that community as well as many others.
Then you're going to be going up against people who may exclusively serve.
Okay.
So just be aware that that's the goal. Quentin, Justin, I see 8 comments in the chat and I can't read them. Can you, and I want to make sure I get to all the questions. Can you read them, please?
Yeah, so the first one came from Rebecca, and they said, is there a time frame for the project timeline to be completed within?
Not that I'm aware of.
The next one is from Ali, and they said, is this a reimbursement grant or will recipients be awarded a lump sum?
Recipients will be awarded on a schedule, but I need to check on that. Paul, are you on the call? Have we made that determination? We awarded the other grants on a schedule. So beginning, middle, and end, but I'm not sure. Let me check on that.
Yes, we haven't discussed that, Pamela.
Okay. I will
But that's a good question.
Take that question, please. And Justin, can you make sure that you capture the chat?
Yep. So then the next questions are from Rebecca both. The first one, is this a reimbursement process? And then the second one are these reporting requirements? Are there reporting requirements?
There will be reporting requirements, but that will be provided after the grant. No, the money will be provided. The goal is not to do reimbursement. The goal is to provide the money so you can do the work, but it is provided. And we haven't decided if it'll be 2 payments or 3 or 1. Honestly, this is a pilot. This is a pilot program. So we will definitely take this question back to the planning committee and the steering committee and let you know.
And then there's two more questions. So this one's from Elizabeth. Regarding timelines, can a community-based organization apply for match funding to be used next summer, 2024?
You use it when you use it after you get it. But you do have to, there are reporting requirements.
And then
So I guess the answer would be yes. Yeah, we are looking for you to use the money and for you to report on how you use the money, but it's not, like I said, like a federal grant.
and then the last question in the chat is, will those that applied prior to the original deadline back in May 2023 be able to resubmit without obstacle?
Resubmit, what does that mean? If you applied and we have your application, you're going to be considered. The next round, we don't even know when they will be released yet. So we're focused on this first pilot round of 10 grants, and everyone who applied in May will be considered with those who applied up until June 30th.
I think you answered the question before, Pamela, when you said that if an organization submitted previously in May and they want to withdraw that application and put forth a different application, they're able to do so.
Right. So if that's what's being asked, if they want to reapply, we would need to get an email saying, please pull our May application. But again, the goal is that these be grants that solve community-based problems in environmental justice communities.
And then one question just popped in the chat right now, and it's from Ben. Is there a deadline by which all money must be used?
Is there a deadline by which all money must be used? No. In the sense that if we choose the project and we award it to you, we're not trying to take it back, or, I'm not understanding the question.
Project period. Is there a project period? Is it a 1 year or 2 year project period, or indefinite, or what is the project period? That's what I think that's the question.
Yeah. Okay, for $20,000, we hadn't
Yes.
determined a project period, but I would imagine a year. Again, I will follow up and verify that. Because if we award in December and, an organization were to say, hey, we really need 2 years, I don't imagine that there would be a no, but we would definitely still have to have reporting.
I'm sorry, I'm not raising my hand, but I'm thinking out loud. So with the submission of the grant, you would have to have a project timeline or proposed project timeline. And that would be reviewed as part of the application, right?
It's one of the questions. Yes, I was looking to see how it's actually asked. This is not meant to be extremely, it's honestly meant to be an empowering. And I think if you make a very empowering case that you need 2 years, you would get 2 years. Provide a timeline that includes descriptions of the actions you will carry out, execute during each month of the project, and the deliverables that you will create. So we have not specified a period. I think the case is to make the compelling argument of what period makes sense for your community. And we will post the PowerPoint to the Siege website. There will also be a match website going up next week, not in time for this submission, obviously, but for you to follow, because as we get other information, we will be posting resources, workshops, grant training, and other information that's coming in to us and to our partners. So there will be a match microsite, and we have everyone. I believe we have everyone on this call. I need you, Justin, make sure you grab the participants list so we can cross-reference
Okay.
against our application list.
Pamela, I have a question. Would you say that our hope with this program is that the grant recipients and the grant applicants would be able to use this opportunity to leverage to get other funding?
We do encourage leveraging that everybody may not be able to leverage because some people will be new. But yeah, we always encourage leveraging. But if you have a specific problem that you think you can address, you know, with the $20,000, then we'll be looking for the explanation. But you're always encouraged. And we do ask in the questions if there are other funds that you would like to be leveraging. Can't say that, you know, I don't want to say anything about review because I'm not going to be on every review team. But we will have guidelines for the reviewers, and I'm sure they'll take those into consideration.
Thank you.
Sure. Did I miss anybody? Those are really excellent questions. Thank you very much for the clarification that we need, for asking the questions that show what we need to clarify. And so hopefully Justin and Tanisha captured those questions and we can put them up as part of a frequently asked questions list, and we'll do better for the next round. I don't want anybody who applied in May to be concerned. You are definitely going to be reviewed for this award group. So that should not be a problem. It was just determined based on several factors and agreed to by the steering committee. The steering committee is comprised of the community organizations that I listed, and the Hub Steering Committee guides us in all the decision-making around this mini grant process. Okay, last call. It was really great to have all of you here, and I will allow for an opportunity if there are any announcements that are community-based. We can have a few more minutes. I did want to share one thing. Let's see if I can find it. Apparently there is, we're going to be posting it soon, a community connections program. And of course, now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. So I think the easiest thing to do would probably be to just send that out to everyone. We got an announcement about a community connectors program that's due in July. Paul, I don't know if you remember if there was funding associated with that, or just resources.
Yeah, they mentioned a stipend. I'm not sure what that meant.
Sorry, of course, we will send this out as soon as I can find it. Also, the Environmental Defense Fund was offering some grant technical assistance for some of their programs. So you might check that website. And there are funding navigators that have been funded by either the White House Council on Environmental Quality or EPA to actually assist community organizations. So as we're getting all of these emails, we're putting them into the resources section on the Match microsite, which all of you will receive as a participant in the workshop. Okay, going once, going twice. I don't see any more hands. Justin, do we have any more questions?
Nope, no more questions.
Thank you all so much for spending this hour with us. And we look forward to reviewing your applications and hopefully helping some of our communities do some really important work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.